At the Madison suburb home, the scent of cinnamon and hot cocoa drifted through the air, a comforting hallmark of Christmas that should have wrapped Reese in warmth. But she barely noticed. Across the living room, her husband, Ryan, handed her a miniature wagon, a smirk tugging at the corners of his mouth. "The perfect ride for someone like you," he said, his tone light but sharp, the humor barely masking something darker. Reese stepped closer, calm but steady, her voice edged with steel. "Well, I have a gift for you, too." Her hands trembled slightly as she adjusted ornaments on the tree, each movement deliberate. Her heart thumped like a broken drum, yet her face remained serene, practiced. Ryan's words from that morning echoed relentlessly in her mind. "I'm preparing a surprise, and everyone will love it." His smile had been predatory rather than loving, the kind that promised to wound. 5 years of marriage had taught her to read every expression, every warning hidden behind charm. When Ryan mentioned surprises, they were never innocent. Reese remembered the diet cookbook he'd given her in front of her family, the clothes 3 sizes too small to motivate her, each gesture a carefully disguised cruelty. "My love, are you okay?" "You look distant," he said, leaning against the doorway. His dark eyes, once warm and inviting, now cut like knives. "I'm fine," Reese replied smoothly, draping strings of colored lights over the tree. Every motion was part of the dance she had learned to survive. "Good. You'll need all your energy for the surprise." He stepped closer, hands resting on her shoulders in a gesture that should have felt tender but felt heavy with deceit. "It'll be unforgettable. I promise." The phone rang, breaking the tension like a gust of wind through a closed window. Paige, her childhood best friend, the one person who had always understood what life inside this house felt like, was on the line. "Reese, how are you? You sound different." Paige's voice cut through the layers of pretense, sensing worry even through a phone line. "I'm fine," Reese said, glancing at Ryan, pretending to read the newspaper while knowing he hung on every word. "Just tired from all the Christmas prep." "Are you sure?" "Remember, you can always count on me." Paige's concern was a balm to Reese's frayed nerves. "I know. Thanks. I'll call later, okay?" Ryan's gaze lifted from the newspaper, sharp and calculating. "Paige is so nosy. Lucky for you, after Christmas, you won't have to worry about friends who just fill your head with nonsense." A shiver ran down Reese's spine. What could he mean? What twisted surprise could involve her friends? "What do you mean by that, Ryan?" she asked carefully. "Oh, nothing, my love. Just that sometimes people need a little push to see reality, don't you think?" He folded the newspaper slowly, deliberate, like a cat toying with its prey. "But don't worry. You'll understand everything in time." The afternoon dragged, thick with anticipation. Reese tried to focus on dinner prep, but every creak of the floorboards made her flinch. When Ryan finally left for an errand, she exhaled and dialed Alice, her mother-in-law, the one family member who had always treated her with respect. "Alice, will you be coming to dinner tomorrow?" "Of course, dear. I wouldn't miss it. Ryan told me he has a special surprise planned." Alice's warm voice eased some of Reese's anxiety. "Do you know what it is?" "No, he hasn't said a word." Reese hesitated. "Alice, may I ask you something unusual?" "Of course, dear. Do you think Ryan sometimes takes his jokes too far?" There was a brief pause. Alice's wisdom settled over Reese like a comforting blanket. "Reese, if my son ever crosses the line with you, I want you to know you can count on me. I didn't raise him to humiliate women. If he does, he'll hear it from me." Relief washed over Reese. She wasn't entirely alone. Later, when Ryan returned, he carried a smug satisfaction that twisted Reese's stomach. He whistled a cheerful tune as he slipped his keys into his pocket, oblivious, or perhaps reveling, in the tension he imposed. "Everything's ready for tomorrow. My love, it will be a night to remember." He leaned to kiss her forehead, a gesture meant to soothe, but it felt like betrayal incarnate. Sleep barely touched Reese that night. Beside her, Ryan snored peacefully, innocent in appearance yet steeped in menace. She lay staring at the ceiling, bracing herself for what the evening might bring, feeling a flicker of resolve she hadn't felt in years. Perhaps it was the conversation with Alice, or the sheer exhaustion of constant vigilance, but a quiet strength was rising within her. Christmas Eve arrived, church bells echoing across Madison, announcing the holiday with their crisp clarity. Reese woke early, brewed coffee, and threw herself into dinner preparations. As she ground the beans, certainty settled in her chest. No matter what Ryan had planned, she would not bow her head. By 7, the house shimmered with golden lights, ornaments reflecting the glow across the walls. The air was festive, yet electric with tension. Alice arrived promptly, her presence warm and grounding. She hugged Reese sincerely. "You look beautiful, dear. That red dress suits you perfectly." "Thank you, Alice. You look elegant, too." Reese allowed herself a brief moment of calm. The house gradually filled with Ryan's aunts and family friends, including Connor, his lifelong best friend. Laughter bubbled through the rooms, glasses clinked, and the familiar chaos of Christmas settled around Reese. But her eyes kept drifting to Ryan. That night, he seemed different. Restless, over-talkative, a barely contained energy threatening to burst. As dinner reached its peak, Ryan stood with a glass of punch, silencing the room. "Family, friends, I want to make a special toast on this sacred night. Today will be a day that goes down in our family history." Alice furrowed her brow. "What is this, son? What have you planned?" Ryan's laugh, so familiar, so poisonous, filled the room. "Mom, it's something symbolic and important for Reese, something that will completely change her perspective on many things." Reese felt the cold grip of dread tighten around her. His mischievous eyes locked on hers, stomach twisting as if warning of a coming storm. She forced herself to smile, chewing her food slowly, each bite a shield against what was coming. "Oh, Ryan, you're so dramatic," Aunt Chloe laughed. "Come on, tell us. Don't leave us hanging." "Patience, Aunt. The best surprises are worth the wait," Ryan said, settling back into his chair. His fingers drummed nervously on the table, his eyes darting to his phone. The chatter continued around the table, a mix of Alice's stories, Connor's updates, and New Year's plans, but Reese felt removed, watching through a fogged window. Beneath the festive cheer, she sensed the darkness behind Ryan's smile. A quiet, steely resolve began to take hold. Around 9:30, Ryan's phone buzzed. The moment he saw the screen, his face lit up like a child on Christmas morning. "Perfect," he muttered loud enough for Reese to hear. "It's time." Reese felt the floor vanish beneath her. Her hands trembled under the table, fists clenched as she fought to steady herself. "What's the matter, son?" Alice asked, noticing the sudden shift in his demeanor. "The gift has arrived, Mom," Ryan said, rising with exaggerated flourish. "Family, the moment you've all been waiting for is here. Please, join me in the backyard for the big reveal." Excited chatter rippled through the dining room as everyone speculated wildly. Alice grasped Reese's arm and whispered, "I hope it's something nice for you, dear, or I won't be responsible for my temper." Reese forced a smile, but each step toward the backyard felt like walking to her own funeral. Laughter and animated conversation clashed painfully with the tight knot of dread coiling in her chest. The backyard glowed under the soft shimmer of Christmas lights she had strung weeks ago. At its center stood a large object draped in red fabric, swaying slightly in the cold December breeze. "Dear family," Ryan began, standing beside it like a showman about to reveal a grand spectacle, "tonight marks a very special moment, a moment of truth, growth, and enlightenment." Reese froze, eyes locked on the red cloth. Alice's gaze was sharp and protective, Connor's puzzled. "Reese, my love," Ryan said, turning toward her, extending a hand like an invitation, "this gift is especially for you, something that will help you see reality in a whole new way." Silence thickened. Reese could hear her heartbeat hammering, the distant hum of traffic along the avenue, even Alice's sharp intake of breath. The world seemed to pause, holding its breath. She squared her shoulders and stepped forward, head high, gaze steady. Whatever humiliation Ryan had planned, she would face it without crumbling. She would not give him the satisfaction of seeing her break. "I'm ready, Ryan." Her voice was firmer than she expected, even to herself. Ryan's grin widened, and Reese knew there was no turning back. With a dramatic flourish, Ryan yanked the edge of the red fabric. Time seemed to slow. The backyard fell into stunned, silence. Beneath the cloth sat a rustic wooden wagon, its paint faded, the oversized wheels awkward and clumsy. At the front, a gray donkey shook its head, seemingly bewildered by the scene. Its dark eyes held a quiet, almost sorrowful intelligence. The silence was deafening. Alice clutched her chest, shock and anger mingling on her face. Connor furrowed his brow, confused. The aunts and uncles exchanged uncertain glances, trying to make sense of the tableau, but there was no context to soften the blow. Ryan, Alice began, but he cut her off, cruel amusement glinting in his eyes. "Here you go, Reese, the perfect transport for someone overweight like you," he said, loud and sharp. "From now on, you won't be riding in my car with that extra weight." Reese felt her chest tighten, as if someone had fired a bullet straight through her heart. Humiliation gripped her like ice, suffocating and relentless. Everyone she loved was witnessing her degradation, exactly as Ryan intended. Alice reacted first. Her holiday glow vanished, replaced by a searing fury. She strode across the yard, each step ringing like thunder, and delivered a sharp slap across Ryan's face. The crack echoed through the gathering. "How dare you humiliate your wife like that, coward?" Alice's voice trembled with restrained rage. "I will not allow this. Not to her, not to anyone. Act like a man, not a spoiled child." Ryan pressed his hand to his reddening cheek, stunned by the force of his mother's fury. "It was just a joke," he stammered. "I was trying to motivate her. She's too heavy. Neighbors are talking, and I just care about her well-being." "Enough," Alice snapped, pacing. "A joke? Publicly humiliating the woman who loves you, who cares for you, who does everything for you. Is that your idea of a joke? Motivation doesn't belong in public ridicule. Whatever you wanted to say should have been private, not a spectacle to expose and mock her in front of everyone." Connor stepped forward, uneasy. "Man, that was harsh. You didn't tell me this is what you were planning. Did you even think it through?" Alice turned to him, eyes blazing. "He never mentioned it would be like this." Connor shook his head, ashamed. "Ryan, you went too far." Reese stood motionless amid the chaos, detached, almost like she was observing herself from outside her body. The humiliation was intense, but beneath it, a simmering anger began to rise, a fury she had held for 5 long years. Ryan reached toward her, oblivious to the fire in her eyes. "Reese, don't be like this. It was just a joke. I love you." Her voice was low, unwavering, carrying across the silent backyard. "You think humiliating me publicly is a joke? Degrading the woman who loves you, who cares for you, who gives everything for you. This is your love? Not this time." For the first time, she felt the dam break. 5 years of mockery, cruel jokes, and hollow gestures ended here. She inhaled deeply, calm washing over her like a tide. "Coming from you, I could expect anything," she said, voice clear and firm. "And that's exactly why I have something for you too. A gift for you, my dear." The backyard fell into stunned silence. Reese moved slowly toward her purse on a nearby garden chair, deliberate and measured. Every eye was on her, yet she felt singularly alone with her resolve. "Ryan," she said, approaching him, authority in every step, "you've always been good at giving unforgettable gifts." He shifted uneasily, realizing the woman he thought he knew had changed. "Reese, what's happening?" he asked, trying to sound casual, but the nervousness seeped through. "This is my Christmas gift to you," Reese said, standing close enough to see the sweat forming on his brow. "I received it days ago, and unlike you, I waited to give it after dinner. But since you teased this mysterious gift all week, I knew I had to be ready. Now is the perfect moment." Alice stepped forward, eyes bright with curiosity and hope. Connor and the aunts and uncles formed a semicircle, anticipating the climax of a drama that had been building for years. Reese carefully opened an envelope and withdrew a set of folded documents. Her voice was steady, firm, carrying across the quiet backyard. "The divorce papers, Ryan, they're already signed." The words hit the garden like a thunderclap. Ryan went pale, staring at the documents as though they were venomous snakes. Alice covered her mouth in shock, but Reese caught a flicker of pride in her mother-in-law's eyes. "No, you can't be serious," Ryan stammered, hands trembling as he picked up the papers. "This is madness," he protested. "It was just a joke. You know I love you." A joke. Reese laughed, sharp and cold, the voice of someone reclaiming her power. Like when you gave me clothes 3 sizes too small in front of your friends. Or when you hired a clown for our anniversary knowing I had a phobia. Or all the times you called me fat in front of everyone. Each word cut deep, and Ryan shrank under the weight of her truth. The family exchanged shocked glances, the pattern of cruelty suddenly clear. "Rosa, let's talk privately," Ryan tried, reaching for her arm, but Reese stepped back, her dignity unshakable. Alice's expression softened into a proud, approving smile. "Now you want privacy? There's nothing to discuss. Sign the papers, take your wagon, and leave," Reese said, fixing her gaze on him. "In case you forgot, the car and the house are in my name. They are mine." Ryan's disbelief was palpable. He looked around, expecting someone to stop this, to say it was all a mistake, but the faces around him were firm, disapproving. Alice's eyes glinted with pride. This can't be real," he whispered, scanning the documents frantically. "The house, the car, we bought them together." "No, Ryan. I bought the house with my grandmother's inheritance. You only lived here. And the car was a gift from my grandfather." Reese crossed her arms, radiating control and strength. "You never cared about legal details. You always said those things were for women." Alice smiled, satisfied. "Reese, you've always been more than he deserved." Ryan turned to Alice, desperate for support. "Mom." "No, Ryan. I won't defend you," Alice said firmly. "You reaped what you sowed. A woman like Reese deserves respect, not ridicule." Tears welled in Reese's eyes, but she held them back. This was her moment of power, not weakness. "You reap what you sow, Ryan," she said, stepping back, creating distance both physical and emotional. "If you truly loved me, you wouldn't humiliate me. You would support me, not tear me down. Leave my house now, and take everything that belongs to you." Connor stepped forward, placing a hand on Ryan's shoulder. "Friend, you need to sign these papers and go. You dug this grave yourself." Ryan's arrogance evaporated. "But where do I go?" "That's no longer my problem," Reese said. She turned to Alice. "You'll always be welcome here. You are the mother I never had." Alice hugged her tightly. Minutes later, Ryan returned from the house with 2 small suitcases, hands shaking. Under the watchful eyes of family and friends, he loaded them into the wooden wagon he had brought to humiliate Reese. The irony was unmistakable. He was literally taking away the instrument of his own cruelty. Climbing into the wagon, he called out, perhaps hoping for one last reconciliation. "I hope you find someone who will accept your jokes, because I will never accept less than I deserve." And just like that, Ryan disappeared down the street, carried away by the same wagon meant to destroy Reese's dignity. She remained in the garden, surrounded by those who truly loved her, feeling freer than she had in 5 years. 6 months later, the morning sun bathed Radiance Boutique in Madison's historic downtown district, illuminating mannequins dressed in vibrant, elegant clothing designed to celebrate every body type. Reese stood behind the counter, checking inventory, when Paige walked in with 2 steaming cups of coffee. "Reese, you look radiant," Paige said, placing the coffee beside her. "You're an angel," Reese replied, inhaling the comforting aroma of roasted beans, a small ritual marking her mornings now. "How did the meeting with the supplier go?" Paige asked. "Incredible. They loved our collaboration proposal. We're launching an exclusive line of modern plus-size apparel." Reese gestured around the boutique, where warm terracotta and golden walls created a welcoming atmosphere. Strategically placed mirrors reflected natural light, tropical plants added life, and framed testimonials lined the walls, letters from women who had found not only beautiful clothing but renewed confidence. "You know, Paige," Reese said, touching a turquoise dress, "I think I had to go through all that to get here. That terrible night showed me who I truly am." A timid young woman entered, hesitating near the entrance. "Good morning. I'm Carmen. I can never find nice clothes in my size. A friend said your boutique could help." Reese smiled warmly, guiding her through the racks. "Carmen, you're very welcome. We'll find something that makes you feel spectacular." When Carmen stepped out of the fitting room wearing a dress that made her glow, she whispered, "I feel beautiful. I haven't felt this way in years." "You've always been beautiful," Reese said, adjusting the neckline gently. True beauty isn't about size. It's about attitude. Later, in the cozy cafe in the back, Paige mentioned casually, I heard Ryan works at that shoe factory across town. He complains about life constantly, especially when he hears about your success. Reese only smiled, looking out at the busy downtown street. I don't feel anger toward him. That Rosa who lived in fear of his humiliations is gone. At that moment, Alice entered, carrying a bag of cinnamon cookies. Ladies, how are my favorite entrepreneurs? You spoil us too much, Reese laughed, accepting the gift gratefully. I have news, Alice said, eyes shining. A friend wants to open a franchise of your store in her city. There's nothing like this there. Reese's heart raced. Do you think I'm ready for this? Alice took her hands. You built all of this on your own in 6 months. You turned your pain into purpose. That's what being ready looks like. Alone later, Reese stood in front of the large mirror at the boutique entrance. The woman staring back was unrecognizable from the girl humiliated that Christmas Eve. Her eyes sparkled with confidence, her shoulders held high, her smile radiant. She hadn't lost weight. She had gained happiness, self-love, and purpose. Thank you, Ryan, she whispered to her reflection. Without your cruelty, I would never have discovered my strength. The sun set over Madison, painting the sky orange and pink. Reese closed the boutique and walked through the historic streets, greeting neighbors and friends. She had found more than a business. She had found community, purpose, and life on her own terms. Sometimes, the greatest humiliations hide the path to liberation. Reese had learned that true strength comes from declaring enough and building a life so full that the past could never touch her again. You just heard this one from Stories by Sue. If it resonated, don't forget to like and subscribe. What are your thoughts? Share them in the comments. I'd love to hear. Thanks for watching.